Hi, God bless you. I've been reading a delightful book by George Hunter, a missionary in China and then to Turkestan. And it's just been an absolute delight. I just want to share a couple of things that I've read um, about his life. Just let me read this. He was arrested. He was arrested um, as a missionary, and when he was arrested, the communist they kept him awake every night. Um, they beat him. They injected him with stuff that would destroy his mind, so he couldn't think. I mean, they were really, really cruel, really nasty. These communists. It says the fierce blinding light of an electric globe was so placed in the cell that the prisoner could never escape the torment of its glare, and a wandering hand a warder had him under such perpetual observation as to direct any attempt to protect himself against the torturing light. If he only covered his eyes with a blanket, the warder would step in and quietly expose his face. A fellow prisoner incarcerated with him wore a beard, and to this was attached a string which the warder pulled each time he passed the cell door, thus effectively keeping him from any sort of rest. Gradually, the perpetual light and the torment of surveillance told on the two men, for as another victim of the same devastating method as well expressed it, an atmosphere of terror it maintained with artistic perfection. Do what you can, he wrote after his release and shortly before his death, to make the church at home and understand that this has nothing to do with the severities of normal imprisonment, but is based on profound understanding of demonical psychology. Long after you are released, you still hear voices taunting you, and for longer still, you feel that they are after you, seeking to hurt and destroy you. Such was the cruelty and the torment of the communist of this missionary. But it's a story of great heroism. There he is again. That's with his servant. And this guy would just get his camels. He was very, um, he would just get his camels. He would just go off without any resources or anything. He'd just go off with his camels, with a few helpers, and he'd go off preaching the gospel over China and outside the borders of China. And he'd go in the rain and snow. And so I'll show you. So that's Mongolians there that he reached with the gospel. So he exchanged needles for butter and milk for this lady. So delightful. So this is the kind of weather things that they went through as missionaries. There's the snow and the camels there. Some of his helpers, this is a Buddhist pilgrim, but some of his helpers, it was so dangerous traveling in China and on the borders of China. It was so dangerous that a number of his servants were killed, were murdered. So his life was always at risk. Everywhere he traveled, his life was at risk of being killed, and he had people with him that were murdered. These are the kind of people that he went to preach the gospel to. Some of the Muslims resisted what he had to say, but there were stories of Muslims when he ran out of food, they would help him, provide milk and butter for him, and were kind to him. And it's a story of great heroism, of traveling around China and outside China, in the deserts, in the mountains. This is him here, sharing the gospel. And this story, people have forgotten it. There he is there, sharing the gospel. He was a bit of a loner. He was a very independent spirited. There's a story that he stayed in a house with the family and he couldn't cope with it because they said you have to be back home at dinner time, at tea time. And he thought, I've not come to China for this. I've come to share the gospel. What if I got talking to people? I can't just come back for dinner. So he didn't like it. He rebelled against it. And eventually he goes tracking. He goes off. These are the kind of people that he shared the gospel to. I mean, someone needs to write a book about this chap. He's a great, an unsung hero. This is the kind of roads that he had to travel. That's to the near to the Great Wall. See how stony the roads are. Some of the desert that he had to travel through. And he'd go outside the Great Wall sometimes and evangelize. This is a Chinese culture here. Yeah. But look at this old book. This was written in. Um, this was written by. This was written by the China Inland Mission, and it was written in 1948. So this book is just nobody knows about him. He's forgotten. Please do your best to get this man remembered. George Hunter, Apostle of Turkestan. Spread the news about him. Someone go and write some articles about him and spread the news. Because what an amazing chap. He stepped out in faith and he was a pioneer missionary and he did a great work for the Lord. Often he would go hungry, often he was on his own. He come back once and someone tried to burn his house down. He had a number of his servants who were murdered. He was captured by the communists and tortured, brutally tortured. But he was still serving the Lord, preaching the gospel. That teaches us that those who carry the gospel, you carry it and you bear the scars of carrying that gospel. It's not easy sometimes. It's not easy. Jesus said, take up your cross and follow me. And let's see that. In 2 Corinthians chapter 11. Wow. I'm sorry to hear that, bro. I'm sorry to hear that, mate. So he says, of the Jews 5 times I received 40 stripes, save one. Thrice I was beaten with rods. Once I was stoned. Thrice I suffered shipwreck. A night and a day I have been in the deep. So this is just some of Paul's scars that he bears for the gospel. If you truly stand up for truth and you stand up for the gospel, then you'll have the scars to prove it. They're your kind of dog collar. And George Hunter, what a man of God. Please Google him, research about him, find out about him, and write about him. And I went to Aberystwyth and the Federal University sold degrees to foreign students. Wow. God bless you and take care, yeah? George Hunter, what an amazing man. He's inspired me. He's really encouraged me to continue to have tenacity and dedication in missionary work. Because this guy had tenacity and dedication. It was not easy. There was a young man that wanted to come and help him. And he told the young man, if you come, don't get married because this life is too tough for a wife. It was tough life. They really give their lives to the mission work. and sacrifice themselves in mission. All right, God bless you. Love to everybody. Hope that's been a blessing to you and inspired you to keep going in your ministry and serving the Lord. God bless you and take care. God bless.